All right, on the left-hand side, we've got our gear shifter. And like I said, this is a dual range, so you can flip a switch over here as well to get you in the low position is forward, the high position is back. So you've actually got several different gears in each high and low range. So that is why they call this the dual range ATC110. And to pull this gear shifter off, we've got a 10mm bolt down below here. You do want to check this bolt periodically, make sure it's tight, make sure it's snugged up. If it's not, you're going to have quite a bit of slop in your gear shifter there, and then you're going to end up replacing your shifter shaft, which I'll show you that when we get down farther into it, show you how to do that. But it's not an easy job, and it can be avoided if you just keep this snugged up, make sure this bolt's tightened up, make sure those splines are in good usable condition. So got the shifter off. Now to pull the recoil, we've got 3 10mm bolts around the outside. We've got those removed. This recoil pull starter, also a bunch of different names for these: rope start, pull start, recoil, I don't know, maybe that's it, maybe just 3 names. But these here are a common problem. These springs in here, or the teeth in here that pull out when we start turning this over, will eventually go bad. These will need replaced. A lot of people don't like to rebuild these, they just like to replace the entire thing. So these used are fairly valuable. Check out our eBay store, we'll have these available for sale. I'll put a link below. I'll also put a link below for a rebuild kit for those. Next thing that I'm going to put all kinds of links for is your charging system. So we've got your stator here, we've got your weights or your magnets down in the center here, and you need a special tool to remove those. So 10mm bolts here around the outside. Again, try not to let this motor turn over. You could potentially break internal parts if you let that chain roll over down in the crankcase there. Nice thing about this is it is a big magnet, so anytime you drop a washer or screw down in this area at least, you shouldn't have to go fishing very far for it, although that was kind of a pain in the rear. That's there. This is the recoil pull starter cup gear. It is what the recoil pull starter will actually grab and turn over when you pull that rope start there. This does not have electric start, so sorry about that. 10mm bolts here, another 3 of them. Now our stator here, our alternator, our generator, our magneto here. That's all the words for this component. It's not a whole bunch of different things, it's just this component here. We can now take and pull out. What you don't want to do is grab this and just yank this out, or you could potentially bust these wires off. This one looks like it's in good condition. To find top dead center when we're adjusting valves, I've again showed you that on a separate video, but you've got your top dead center mark here. We've got a fire and a top dead center, so make sure you know the difference there. And again, I've gone over that in separate videos. So you've got a little bit of a hole here on the bottom of this case cover. That's if you ever get water or debris down in here. It's actually just going to run out the bottom. So we've got a gasket to try to keep the water from filling up this area if it's a downpour rain. But if by chance you do get a little water in there, it is supposed to come out that little hole there. You don't want that water just sitting in there. 14mm bolt here. And I like to try to hold this because it will actually turn your motor over if you're not careful, and again, could break your idler gear there. That's down inside your motor. So we'll grab our special tool to remove this. Okay, our special puller here is, it looks like just a standard bolt. Now, you want to be really careful if that's what you use, because the threads on here are going to be a lot softer on a regular bolt than they are on your magnet system here. And by running this in, pulling this puller off, if you're just using a standard bolt there, you are without a doubt going to destroy some threads there. So use the specific puller. It's a very, very hardened steel and will help you not damage this piece here, which I'll have you know is no longer available through Yamaha. Check our eBay store out for that flywheel there, because I probably do have those available. Now I'm going to take and put this in here. This is going to be a little bit harder to hold, so I'm going to take and run this all the way down. This is just a bolt in there to try to hold, so I've got a place to hold with my finger. And you're going to actually turn this clockwise, and that's going to pull it off just like that. Very, very simple process. But again, it's important that you have the correct tool. It's important that you do that properly so you don't break anything, don't cause some major damage there. Again, I'll put a link for this tool in my description below. While you're down there ordering that tool, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. Now to pull your stator out, your magneto, your charging system, go ahead and just pull it out just like that. You've got the 3 bolts that held this in. Those are already out. This is your grommet here that sits down in this position there. You can actually put a little rubber gasket maker, a little liquid gasket maker around this rubber plug here. That way it doesn't leak water, get dirt and debris in there. Just helps save that area there. We've got a hose here. I believe this ran up to the carburetor. Another one here that ran to the bottom of the carburetor. We can remove those. Those are trash. Those are brittle and not in good condition. So dual range cover is here. I'm going to get into that at this point now. Grab your impact driver here. Do your best not to sling your motor across the room while you're doing this. It really would be beneficial to have somebody sitting here holding this motor. But don't have anybody doing that today. If you've got dirt and debris down in these bolts here, make sure to remove that before putting your impact driver on there, because what will happen is that dirt and debris won't allow you to sit down in there properly. You'll end up rounding off these bolts here. All right, we'll go ahead and remove these 4. Once you have loosened them up, you can put an impact driver on there, an impact, and pull those off. And now we've got this cover that's going to pull off of there. Again, another gasket. Don't forget to replace those. Got a bearing here that's stuck onto your shaft. That's okay. That bearing actually sits down in there, and the other side doesn't have a bearing. So these, we've got a shift fork here, so we've got the high and low. So when you pull that back, it's going to push this gear back, and this gear is going to be engaged then that way. So that's what it's doing there. This lever here is actually moving this fork that's down here, and that's moving this movable gear here. So back and forth like that. Then there's a gear in here that's going to fall into place once this turns over. So that's why when you shift this, a lot of times you've got to go a little bit forward before it'll actually drop into place there. That is why, because this doesn't sit. There's holes behind this gear. I'll pull this out so you can see it here in a second, but there's holes in behind this gear here that need to drop into place for that to function properly. So dual range cover there. All right, done with the charging system now. We're going to remove this outer cover here, but I'm still dinking around with this dual range assembly here. We've got a handful of bolts that we need to pull out. We've used that impact driver to loosen these up and remove these. And now we've got this case cover here that's ready to come out of there. There is a snap, some sort of a holder in here to hold this dual range lever on. We will need to remove that. That way we can remove that fork out. Just grab a pair of pliers, needle nose pliers, pull that pin out there. Now we're just gonna be able to slide this shaft down, get our screwdriver in there. You don't want to damage this because there is a sealed up area there, but you do have to get something in behind there to pull this down. Again, don't try to turn your screwdriver on there and damage that area. Once you get it out far enough, you can just use your fingers, pull it out. There's an O-ring there that seals that up. So that's the dual range. That clip there slides into place there, and now you're able just to remove these parts out of here. We can remove this shift fork at this time. Otherwise, if that lever there was still in there, you wouldn't be able to pull that shift fork out easily. So there's our pieces there. There's our gear that I was telling you needed to fall into place. So there's 3 posts on this gear that do need to slide into place there when you're changing that from high to low or low to high. Got a snap ring down in there. Grab some snap ring pliers. Get it up a little ways, then you're able to get your snap ring pliers on there again. Pull that out. Now we're going to remove that gear. That way all of those gears are out of there, and we don't have to worry about dumping those or those falling out of place there. So sits there. This goes on front of it there. This is a separate gear. Inside here we've got a spring, and that's what kind of keeps that in position there, this fork. So make sure those pieces don't get lost. Now we're ready to pull this cover off. You do down in here, I told you that there's a spring for that shift fork. You do have a ball and all those parts kind of work together there. And then you've got your holder here that will actually move that shift fork there. This shaft can come up. You've got a little pin there. You want to make sure that that stays in place. That is for your gear, this gear here. Your reverse indicator is here. You can grab a flat screwdriver, get in behind that clip, and pry that off. Then you can take and pull that plastic clip off of there. We'll set that aside. We'll put that back on here in a little bit. Now we're ready to pull this cover off. Use a plastic mallet. Once we get our plastic mallet, tap on it a couple times, we're able just to get our fingers underneath of there and remove that cover. We do have a gasket on behind there. Imagine that. Make sure you inspect that. Clean that up really good. We'll set that aside. We've got our cam chain that goes down here, sits on the end of that crankshaft. We're able to pull that out. Set that aside. We've got our idler gear here. That goes all the way through. I'll show you that when we get to the other side where that goes through. And then we also have another idler here. And this one is held on. Here we go. Sophistication for the 1979. This is your cam chain tensioner here. So 14mm plug. What that's doing is actually putting pressure on here, which is putting pressure on this roller here. So if we were to take and remove this 14-inch plug, this 14-inch bolt here, this is going to loosen up this gear. We've got it removed. Now we're able to take and push this back. Remove that plug there. Now we're able to take a screwdriver, loosen this up. Okay, so we've removed this bolt here. This is how we're going to screw this this tensioner in. The tensioner that sits up here goes into this ring here. Now we're going to have to loosen up this 12mm. And this is how you adjust your cam chain tension. So loosen that up. Now this is, again, going to be loaded with tension here. So now it's going to go down. So we're going to get that into position there. So you can do this without pulling your charging system. This can all be done while the three-wheeler, while the motor is in the three-wheeler. So we've got the cam chain tensioner there. You can see that. When that springs forward, that's putting tension on this idler, which is putting tension on this cam chain. So to tighten this down then, it'll actually hold in position there. If you want to tighten it up, it is spring loaded here. This screw down below here is manually tightening that tensioner up there. This is locking it in position. You've got a lock nut here, again a 12mm. You can tighten that up to wherever you want it to be. And then this one's snugged up as well. So that is how the cam chain tensioner works on this ATC110. If you've got questions on that, make sure and holler and let me know. We do have 3 screws or 3 bolts here holding this ring in, so we're going to remove those. And that's also going to allow us to remove that idler there, that roller. All right, we'll pull those 3 screws. Now we're able to pull that ring out of there, pull that rotor there. And if we need to replace that, we can at this time. Again, check my store for there. I'll put a link for some of this stuff below. While you're down there ordering parts, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you are notified every single time we upload a incredible rebuild video. Videos like this is what's going to keep ATVs running great again. So we got to mega this. We can make ATVs great again. One video at a time. So make sure you subscribe to our channel. How about that election? I'm not going to get into politics at this time, but if you want to comment below, you are welcome to. Common problem on here, and I see this is what happened here. You can see we've actually got a broken case here. So imagine that. This chain bound up in here actually broke a piece of this case off now, and I finished breaking it. So what wasn't broken, I just finished it off there. So you're actually going to have a hole at this point here. And this, if you remember, you've got a cover that goes over top of this. So getting into this cover here, how'd that sit here? Oh yeah, definitely. You see there where it got bound up underneath this gasket here? Got bound up, destroyed the case here. There is your neutral indicator, is right here. It actually kind of got up into there. So when that shifts into neutral, that turns this little shaft here that's got this groove out of it, and that kicks that little plastic doohickey there into that neutral position there, so you know, hey, I'm in neutral. So that is the 1979 version of a gear indicator. So real high class, but who am I to judge? Okay, we're gonna take and pull this chain off. We've got a sprocket here we're gonna pull off as well. And that was awful hard to do. That's your sprocket there. You can see there we've got some teeth that are worn. This is still usable. I don't know, enter at your own risk. I'm not totally sure I'd buy a used sprocket, although my guess is you can't get these anymore from Honda. What I wouldn't do is buy a used chain. All my chains go in the trash. You don't ever use a chain again on some of this older stuff. You don't know how long that chain's been in there. Could be 41 years this year. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this tensioner here because I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, make sure it's in tip-top shape before we're going back together with it. And I want you to see what this looks like. So there is a little cap with your screwdriver hole. There's a spring. There is your shaft that goes all the way up in there. So it is spring loaded. Keep that in mind. There is your holder here. So your holder actually goes right down onto that shaft. I bet if we look here, there'll be a little bit of grooving where we ran this bolt in there a little bit too far. So I'm going to keep all those parts together. That way we don't lose anything. We can get ordered what we need to get ordered. Here's your shift shaft. I told you I'd show you that when we get in there farther. It actually goes all the way over to your clutch cover side there. So I told you we'd get to that here in a little bit. We're still getting to that point. This video is getting fairly lengthy. There's a lot to these little motors. So your foot pegs actually mount up right here. So be careful when you're tightening up those foot peg bolts. There's 4 bolts there, and you do need those. They're very, very essential. So keep that in mind. Don't go Hulk mode on there. I'm going to remove your piston now at this time. I didn't do that earlier. I could do that at any point. Grab a pick. I like to use a 90-degree angle pick, and this is like half of a hook pick. That would maybe work. Half of a 90-degree pick. If somebody watching this video wants to send me a set of picks, I could greatly use it. This is an off-brand knockoff pick set that I guarantee will break here before too long. But with you guys' support, I guarantee I'll have picks before we know it. So shove that pin through there and remove that piston just like that. Now to put that pin back in there in that clip, take that clip, open side that direction, take and shove it in there, grab my knockoff pick set and push that pin in there just like that. That's going to hold that pin in place. It's not going to allow that to come out of there. That piston is in excellent shape, which makes sense that our cylinder was in excellent shape. So that must have had some routine maintenance with it. Engine number is on your, it would be your left-hand side there on your motor, right below your gear shifter. I'm going to prop this up. Now we're going to get into, oh boy, we've got an oil mess here. We evidently did not drain this oil. How in the world are we just now seeing that? I'm going to have a mess. We got oil in this motor. Better that than no oil, I guess, but now we just had a stinking mess. This should have been drained before we pulled this motor.